There's a moment in every person's life that quietly changes everything, yet almost no one ever recognizes it when it happens. It's not the dramatic aftershock of transformation when everything is already different. It's not the point when you can look back and understand the lesson with perfect clarity. It's that subtle in-between moment, the breath before the leap, when you are standing unknowingly between two versions of yourself, one foot still in the old life, the other trembling on the edge of the unknown. If you're hearing these words right now, it's probably not a coincidence. Something inside you brought you here. Some quiet part of you already knows that change is unfolding beneath the surface, even if you can't quite name it yet. It might show up as restlessness, a vague unease, a feeling that something once familiar now feels strangely foreign. Maybe your life still looks the same from the outside, but inside you sense movement, like a tide shifting direction in the dark. Sometimes it starts small. A job that once felt secure now feels suffocating. A relationship that used to comfort you suddenly feels heavy. Or maybe it's just the quiet awareness that the version of you who once fit perfectly into this life doesn't quite fit anymore. The patterns that used to bring ease now feel empty. The routines that once made sense now feel like walls. That's not a sign something is wrong. That's the first pulse of transformation. That's the whisper before the earthquake. Most people miss this window entirely. They wait for life to scream at them before they pay attention. They wait for a breakup, a breakdown, a crisis, for the pain to become so unbearable that change becomes the only option left. They wait for permission, for some cosmic sign that it's safe to move. But true transformation doesn't arrive with flashing lights or applause. It starts with something quieter, something far more intimate, a whisper from within that says, "This chapter is complete." Even when your conscious mind doesn't fully understand it yet, your body does, your intuition does. You feel it in the way certain conversations suddenly feel forced, in the way familiar places lose their color, in the way comfort turns into a cage. That quiet discomfort isn't an error in the system. It's the system doing exactly what it's designed to do, alerting you that you're outgrowing something. It's the emotional equivalent of a seed cracking open underground. Painful, yes, but necessary. Think of it like this. You've been in a brightly lit room for so long that you forgot what natural light feels like. Over time, someone begins dimming the lights. Barely noticeable at first, the brightness that once blinded you begins to soften. At first, you can't explain why everything feels different. You just know it does. Your body senses it before your mind can label it. That's what change feels like. Quiet, invisible, gradual, until suddenly you realize you're standing in a completely different light. And yet, most people miss it. They're too busy waiting for thunder to realize they've been living inside the whisper all along. They keep looking for dramatic proof that something is changing, when in truth, it's already happening in the smallest, subtlest ways. Here's the pattern that plays out in so many lives. Beneath all the daily noise, there's a faint static humming in the background, a soft but persistent signal that something's off. It's that low-level dissonance that says, "This job doesn't fit anymore," or "This relationship has reached its natural end," or "This version of me feels exhausted." But because it's quiet, because it doesn't come with an emergency label, people ignore it. They rationalize it away. They tell themselves it's not the right time, that they just need a vacation, that they'll figure it out later. They push it down with distractions, plans, to-do lists. They wait until later becomes never. But the whisper doesn't vanish. It grows louder. What begins as a subtle discomfort evolves into agitation, then into exhaustion, and eventually into a full-blown collapse that forces change. That's when life intervenes. That's when the universe, or whatever you want to call it, says, "You wouldn't listen when I whispered. So now I have to make it undeniable, and the change you resisted comes crashing in, messy and chaotic." But it never needed to be chaos. There's always a moment, a grace period, right before the storm, where you have the chance to move willingly instead of being pushed. That's the moment you're in right now. The threshold moment. The one most people overlook because it doesn't look like change yet, but it is. It's the invisible pause before your life rearranges itself. It's your intuition trying to prepare you for the next version of yourself. And if you're paying attention, you can become an active participant in that transformation rather than a bystander. You'll notice the signs. They always start with a tightening of awareness, a feeling that time is speeding up, that your patience is wearing thin, that the things you used to tolerate now feel intolerable. You find yourself craving space, craving truth, craving peace instead of approval. You're becoming more sensitive to what drains you and more drawn to what feels real. That's not regression. That's awakening. Your soul has simply reached a point where pretending is no longer sustainable. You can't unknow what you now know about yourself. You can't unsee what you've realized about your life. So you're caught between two identities. The old self, who could live in illusion, and the emerging self, who refuses to. And that friction, that unbearable tension, it's not a sign that something's breaking. It's proof that something's being born. Imagine standing on the edge of a cliff at night. You can't see what lies below, but you know the ground behind you is crumbling. You feel the pull of gravity and the call of freedom at the same time. Your mind screams to stay, to patch up the cliff, to rebuild the old ground. But your soul knows it's already gone. That's what this moment feels like. Terrifying and liberating in equal measure. But here's the truth that most people never understand. These moments of collapse aren't punishment, they're protection. Your system isn't betraying you, it's guiding you. The urgency, the crumbling, the restlessness, they're signals that your evolution has already begun. And if you ignore them, if you insist on staying inside a life that no longer matches your expansion, you'll start to shrink to fit it. You'll start to disappear into comfort zones that were never meant to contain the person you're becoming. The fall isn't destruction. It's an invitation to expand. The tricky part is that, from the outside, nothing looks different. You still wake up in the same bed, see the same faces, go through the same motions. But inside, something fundamental has shifted. The way you look at those same details has changed. You're perceiving everything through a new lens. One that no longer allows self-betrayal to masquerade as peace. That's what real transformation is. Not the visible milestones, but the invisible reorientation of perception. Most people think change starts when their circumstances shift, when they move cities, quit the job, end the relationship. But the truth is, those are effects, not causes. The actual change happens long before that. In the moment your inner system updates and your outer reality hasn't caught up yet. That in-between space, the liminal space, is where you are now. It's where everything unseen begins to reorganize itself. It's where your choices start carrying new energy, even when no one else notices. It's where you begin to live from alignment instead of autopilot. And when that happens, something beautiful begins. You start noticing synchronicities, little coincidences that aren't coincidences at all. You think of someone and they reach out. You ask a question and the answer shows up in a book, a song, or a stranger's words. You overhear exactly what you needed to hear. You see repeating numbers, familiar symbols, signs that seem to wink at you from the universe itself. You can dismiss it all as random. Most people do. But deep down, you know better. These synchronicities are breadcrumbs. They're proof that your internal compass has recalibrated and is now pulling you toward your true direction. For years, you might have ignored its guidance or pointed it away from your truth because fear told you it was safer that way. But now the compass is too strong to ignore, and as it aligns, the world aligns with it. Suddenly, the opportunities that were always there reveal themselves. The people meant for you start appearing. The doors you once thought were locked open effortlessly because you finally matched their frequency. What's really happening is that your inner vibration, your emotional signature, has shifted, and the external world can't help but rearrange itself around that. This isn't fantasy, this is resonance. The natural harmony that occurs when your inner world finally stops fighting your outer one. It's what happens when the story you tell yourself about who you are finally matches the frequency of who you were born to be. When belief and being become one, the world has no choice but to mirror it back to you. Crystal clear, like a mirror that's just been wiped clean after years of dust and distortion. Suddenly, life begins to echo your energy instead of contradicting it. The people you meet, the opportunities that appear, the timing of events, all of it starts to hum in the same key as your truth. You begin to notice that what once felt like resistance now feels like rhythm. The doors that used to stay closed no longer require you to push. They open at the slightest touch because you've stopped knocking on the wrong ones. But don't misunderstand this alignment as something that demands flawlessness. Transformation isn't about perfect timing, perfect planning, or perfect execution. It's about surrender. It's about allowing yourself to take one step at a time, even when the ground beneath your feet hasn't finished forming. You don't need to have the map. You don't need to have the timeline. You don't need to have the answers to every what if. Readiness is not a prerequisite for awakening. Willingness is. And that's where most people get stuck. They wait. They wait for the fear to subside before they move. They wait for the circumstances to feel safe before they act. They wait until they have all the data, all the assurance, all the certainty. And in the waiting, their lives begin to shrink. They live in a half version of themselves, waiting for a perfect moment that will never arrive, because transformation never begins with comfort. The truth is, no one is ever completely ready for change. The ones who evolve aren't fearless heroes. They're ordinary souls who decide that staying the same is no longer sustainable. They feel the fear. They feel the shaking hands, the racing heart, the unknown stretching out in front of them. And they walk forward anyway, because one day, something inside them whispers louder than their fear. I can't stay here anymore. That's not recklessness. That's the voice of evolution calling you forward. And that's you, right now. The version of you hearing these words is already not the same as the one who began listening. You've already shifted, maybe imperceptibly, maybe just a few degrees. But that small turn changes the entire trajectory of your life. You've already made a choice, even if you don't realize it yet. You chose to stay instead of scroll past. You chose to listen instead of escape into distraction. You chose to lean into the discomfort rather than numbing it with busyness or noise. And that choice, that single, quiet act of presence, is the exact moment where transformation begins. Real change doesn't announce itself with fireworks. It begins in silence, in that breath between awareness and action. It begins when you decide, even without a plan, that you can't go back to pretending anymore. When you stop trying to fix the old life and instead open yourself to the possibility of a new one. Maybe you don't even know why you're here. Maybe you just felt a subtle tug, that inexplicable pull that said, pause, listen, this matters. That's not random. That's resonance finding its way to you. That's your soul responding to a signal that's been waiting for you to tune in. And when this ends, part of you will be tempted to go back to normal, to brush this off as just another message, another video, another few minutes of inspiration that fades by morning. The human mind loves the safety of routine. It will whisper, forget this. Go back to what you know. But there's another part of you, the deeper, wiser, quieter part, that won't be able to. That part will remember how something felt when you heard these words. It will remember that for a brief moment, you could feel truth vibrating in your chest. It will remember that you saw a glimpse, not of something new, but of something ancient inside you that you had forgotten. That part will start paying attention. It will notice patterns where before you saw randomness. It will hear meaning in songs, see symbols in everyday moments, feel messages in coincidence. It will begin to recognize synchronicities, those subtle winks from the universe that remind you, you're on the right path. Keep going. And over time, that part, that true self, will begin to take the lead. It will speak louder than fear. It will move faster than doubt. It will make choices that feel strange to your mind, but deeply correct to your heart. That's the part that's been waiting. That's the version of you that's been whispering, I'm ready. You're not late. You're not lost. You're not broken. You are in the sacred threshold, the quiet in-between space between who you were and who you are becoming. It's not confusion. It's creation. It's not falling apart. It's unfolding. The change you've been waiting for isn't out there on the horizon. It's already inside you, reshaping everything from the inside out. It's happening in your thoughts, in your choices, in the small ways you respond differently now. So trust it. Trust what you're feeling, even when it doesn't make sense. Trust the gentle pull that leads you away from what no longer fits, even when it's hard to release it. Trust the whisper more than the noise, the intuition more than the logic, the flow more than the plan. You're not meant to have all the answers. You're meant to stay open enough for the answers to find you. You're not meant to chase alignment. You're meant to become it. Let go of the illusion that you're lost. You're not lost. You're being guided by something greater than your mind can comprehend. You're unfolding, layer by layer, belief by belief, into the vastness of who you truly are. The shift isn't on its way. It's not waiting for permission. It's already begun, quietly, beautifully, inevitably. And the only thing left for you to do is allow it. Let life rearrange itself around your new truth. Let yourself be surprised by how perfectly things start to make sense when you stop forcing them to. Let the old version of you dissolve with gratitude, not resistance. You are not ending. You are expanding. You are not breaking. You are becoming. And the person you are becoming, the one who feels this message deep in their bones, that person has been waiting a very long time to meet you. Welcome to your becoming.